Yo, what's going on, family? Let's have a little talk down, a little sit down, a little talk, a little sit and a talk. I'm gonna sit down and we're gonna talk. Getting a phone call. Yo, I'm shooting a video. I'm gonna call you back. No, you're good. It's my friend Natalie Lauren. Some of you may remember her. Let me just say this, y'all. Deconstruction is not only an experience, it is a skill. A skill that some of you you're not happy about developing. I remember hearing this quote from Jordan Peterson a while ago. Some of you may be fans of him, some of you not. I have mixed feelings about him. Super paraphrasing, but he says something along the lines of, be careful of deconstructing an ideology, a worldview, because once you're able to do it to one ideology, you can do it to all of them. And I find that to be very true. This can be a good or a bad thing. If you're like myself, you spent all your time growing up and a good portion of your adulthood in a specific religion, particularly my experience of conservative American Christianity, mainstream evangelicalism. You spent a lot of time in there. You've made community, you've made identity, you've made money, you've made so many ties to a particular ideology. Your entire worldview, your framework of how you see life, what is most important in life, has been seen through this lens. To let go of that is a very, very scary thing. Not even just to let go of it, but to critique it, to bring it up under the examining lens is a very scary thing. I remember making a poem that went super viral. People still steal it, post it online. I have to report it every now and then to get it taken down. I had a poem, it's called Shadow of a Doubt. One of the lines in it was, doubt your doubts. And right after that very sort of famous quote, doubt your doubts, I have a line in there that says, I'm speaking on behalf of God in this poem. And I say, you know my truth. Truth is, you know my truth, and you're scared. You're scared of what that means, scared of what that should cost you. Implying that, oh, you're a Christian, you know the Bible is true, and you're actually scared of what that will cost you. You're scared of what that means, scared of what that should cost you, that one day they'll laugh at you, laugh you out of their courtrooms and scorn you out. Something to that effect, right? I have found that might be a distraction, might be a way of letting you off the hook of really going down the rabbit hole of examining and critiquing your worldview and your faith. Because it could very well be the opposite. You're scared of what that means. You're scared that the Bible is true. That's why you're scared that what this should cost you, the cost of Christ, the cost of the cross, right? To take up your cross, to bear it daily. There's a cost that comes with that. And you're scared. That's why you don't want the Bible to be true. And that's what a lot of Christians will still say to me. Oh, you want to live the life that you want to live. And so therefore, that's why you want the Bible to be false, because you want to live in sin without guilt. I see that guilt trip, and I raise you one. I raise you this, that maybe, just maybe, and this was true in my case, and maybe true for a lot of you, that you're scared. You're scared of what that should cost you, that it would cost you community. It would cost you identity. It would cost you the work of having to reconstruct what this looks like. Man, the word reconstruction, I think about slavery in the Reconstruction era that happened after the emancipation of the slaves. Not only were white folks afraid of letting the slaves go, of even considering black people on par with a white person, considering them equal, they were scared of the work that it would cost them beyond that. See, the legislation passed, and you see the hesitation of white folks doing the work to reconstruct. Now that we've deconstructed this idea of slavery, we've deconstructed this idea that the black person is somehow subservient, inferior to the white person. They can't be property anymore. That means that society will have to look completely different, and we have to do the work of reconstructing society. Reconstruction era, in many ways, was a failure due to the hesitation of seeing the world in a new way that would see the black person, that would see the African slave, the American slave on par with them and living a life that is equal, with the same equal opportunities as black folks. And we still go through this today. We say, oh, well, we laid the groundwork. The Civil Rights Act passed. There's nothing else to do, because oftentimes we see racism as simply a moral failure rather than a systemic one. We see it as like, oh, if we can't identify the behavior, then there's no racism. Racism is structural. Prejudice and bigotry is personal. I'm getting off track. What I'm trying to say is that idea of having to start from scratch to reimagine what life looks like now that you've deconstructed the prevailing ideology, that is scary. And so on the individual level, for the person who has doubts or whatever, you may want to trick yourself into thinking that, oh, you know what? I'm really just scared of what God calls for me to do. And so that's why I'm doubting. That's why I want to walk away. When what could be lying under that is that maybe you're scared. Let me put a timer on, by the way. Maybe you're scared of what it'll cost you to let go of all of it, to let go of what you've known, and to then reconstruct a life beyond that. The same experience for me was like, I don't know what it looks like. Okay, say I do let go of Christianity. What does my friend group look like? What does my profession look like? What does purpose look like? What do I have to look forward to, if not eternity with Jesus? I have to reimagine all of that. And that, there is no cheat code for that. There is no shortcut for that. That is hard. And you may not want to do that. You may not want to reconstruct and reimagine your friend groups, your identity, how you move through the world. So it's a very hard thing to do. But once you do it, let me tell you, it's a dangerous tool to have because, again, deconstructing is not only an experience, it is a skill. And once you learn a skill in one area, you can apply that skill to many different things. You went to job training at one job, and then you realize, oh, I can take that same information, that same skill that I learned, and apply it to this other space over here. Same with deconstruction. That means that you can deconstruct any politic, family dynamics, economics, fitness. And this is actually why this is coming up for me. I may be on a little ADHD tear right now, so please bear with me. ADHD, whatever it's called. I'm not diagnosed, so I won't say I have it, but the telltale signs are there. I've been lifting, and I won't get into the details of it. Let me just say I've had a lot of success lately in the gym and in the kitchen and in resting, and just my overall health has been really, really good. And through that, as I stumble more into like video essays and stuff like that, learning more information about fitness, you start getting down the rabbit hole of people who are on some other stuff, right? And it feels so akin to where I was in Christianity. So you know the traditional approach to fitness is like, oh, you go to the gym, bench press, squat, do deadlifts, do curls, do this, all these sort of conventional ways of approaching getting strong, getting fit. And then you start to see people who focus more on mobility and kettlebell swings and all these other weird, random little, I've been seeing some really random stuff of some people who are really jacked and look really fit and really flexible. And I'm like, hey, I want that. And they're like, hey, if you want this, you've got to deconstruct your conventional ideology of what fitness looks like. And I'm like, oh, I've been here before. Oh, I've learned the basic skill of deconstructing is learning to be wrong. Like, I've gotten good at being wrong about something. After spending so much time and being prideful about being right about something, now the trick is that you can also just flip it. You can get to another ideology, and then now you're like just as dogmatic as you were when you were a Calvinist or whatever, right? Or some conservative, where you can get just as dogmatic in your leftist politic and so forth. And not to say that there's no space for being dogmatic about something. I think at some point you have to put your foot down. You have to lay your hat down somewhere and have a hill that you want to die on. But you start to have a little bit of humility in that approach to it. And so I'm learning to be wrong about stuff and being excited about that, because there's a whole new world beyond that. Because the thing that scared me so much about leaving Christianity was the uncertainty on the other side of it. And then I've realized that, yes, that uncertainty is quite scary, but it's almost as if you started a new life. It is a type of rebirth. It's a type of being reborn. You have the opportunity now to be reborn quite a bit in this life if you're okay, if you are open to being wrong, being taught another worldview, another way of looking at life, or just a deeper way of critiquing, examining the already prior held beliefs that you had. And so I put this post on Threads today, which I thought was, man, it's not a complete thought. I think I was just kind of spitballing, but I'm getting somewhere. Where I said deconstructing the religion is actually the first layer. Then you see the politic and economics beneath it. Then you see the history and repeat archetypes. Then the ever-present human desire to detach itself and elevate above nature. I'm not trying to sound super deep with that, but it is true. Like, once I thought I was just deconstructing Christianity, and then you're like, oh shoot, I am deconstructing American Christianity and how Christianity, the co-opting of Christianity, has played a part in colonialist, imperialist domination of the West, domination of minorities, of war, and of impoverishing people, like so many things that my religion has been tied to. And not on accident. This kind of gets me to my next point. Some people want to do the half work of deconstructing so they can still hold on to that Christianity. And I'm not saying that you can't return to Christianity, but you're on a page that is all about deconstructing, so you can take it or leave it. But to be able to tear that thing down to the ground, some people just want to remodel, just want to renovate and not remodel. They don't, or just tear it all down to the ground altogether. They want to keep the house, but they want new counters, they want new floors, but they want to keep the structure of the thing that they're in. And I'm saying, yo, you could have a bigger house. You could have a nicer house if you just tear this one down. You've got a really big lot, your life, your brain, your soul, your mind, your people, the earth. You've got a really big lot, and you keep trying to renovate this small ass house and keep putting up new counters and putting up new paint over old paint. Tear it down and start from scratch, man. That's where you're feeling the limiting factor. The counters, the tile on the floor is not what's limiting you. It is the structure of the house that is limiting you. And by that, I mean particularly how you've been introduced to Christianity. If you get reintroduced to it altogether, being able to question all the things so that when you come to it, you're much more open versus like, oh, I want to keep the Christianity and I'm open to slightly new interpretations. I'm okay with, reimagining how Christianity, this is a new one that keeps coming up, how Christianity was introduced to Africa. And so then I'm able to try to be slightly pro-Black and Christian. Maybe you need to deconstruct the whole freaking thing and then come back to it. There's a video that got viral. This dude, Reed Choi. I don't know much about the guy. I know he's a funny guy. I used to follow him on TikTok. And he posted this video. Let me see.
Black people, why are you Christians? White people, your oppressors have forced you into their cult. Christianity arrived in Africa within the 1st century. What? But the slaves and forcing them to be Christian. Not saying that didn't happen, but Mark the disciple brought Christianity into Alexandria, Egypt. And then by the 4th century, Ethiopia declared Christianity its state religion. The transatlantic slave trade didn't happen until the 17th century. Okay, yeah, but it's still the white people's cult. Okay, so Africans have been worshiping Christ way before Europeans, and Christianity started in Israel. You know that, right? It's important to me that you know that. Well, white people still shoved it down their slaves' throats. Okay, you're not hearing me. White people didn't give black people Christianity. They already had it. They just tried to twist the narrative, and you're letting the enemy get to you. They'll trick you, fool you. Well, that same Christianity was used to validate slavery. And look, when you spread lies like this, you're doing the same thing that the slave owners did, taking things out of context to back their own hypocrisy because they desperately want their viewpoint to be true.
The ironic thing is, this is exactly what he's doing. And every black Christian, one, by the way, is an Asian dude trying to tell black people how to feel about their oppressors and their oppressors' religion, is crazy work, son. It's crazy work. So there's a lot of like things wrong with this, but namely to keep this on topic is that what I saw was this thing has over 10,000 comments, and I saw so many Christians being like, yeah, that's right. Africa did have Christianity, and we don't, we can still be Christian. Again, I'm not saying you can't be Christian because I still dabble a little bit, right? But be honest. Don't do the half work of deconstructing. Do the whole thing. This is half work. This is to try to do the remodeling. You just want some new counters, and you're not considering the framework of this ideology, One is assuming that all of Africa is the same. He was like, oh, Christianity entered Ethiopia in the 4th century. It was the state religion. Yeah, in the 4th century, right? Hundreds of years after Jesus. By the way, there is Christian tradition that, the Ethiopian eunuch that was introduced. But hear me out. Individuals in one region being introduced to Christianity is not the same as the entire continent, y'all. Like, all of Africa is not the same. It's like Ethiopia's East Africa, fam. East. You know how big Africa is? It's 3 times bigger than Europe. Europe, fam. Africa is huge. We're talking about a time that it didn't even have planes, okay? So we're just assuming Ethiopians were introduced to it. Then the West was too. That's not the case. It's not the case at all. The American slave was not taken from Ethiopia. It was taken from West Africa. That is not a small distinction. That is not me being petty or pedantic. That is crucial. It's West Africa. West Africa definitely, by and large, was introduced not to the Christianity that was introduced to Ethiopia, which was, Ethiopians are Orthodox Christians. They're not Protestant. It's very different. The West Africa coast was introduced to Protestant Christianity, which is definitely a white man's convention. Absolutely. Martin Luther, Protestant Christianity is very much a white man's thing. But people hear this and they run with it and they're like, oh yeah, Africa, we already had it. No, you are the descendant of an American slave, fam. And he's saying, oh, white people didn't introduce Christians, black people to Christianity. They already had it. There's no evidence that Christianity was widespread in the West at all by time colonizers got there. West Africans were still very much practicing indigenous religions. Islam had spread there by way of trade routes and so forth. But Christianity was not widespread in the West at all. This is a white man's thing. It's a white man's thing. Again, not saying you can't be Christian, but then you've got to deconstruct past that point. Okay, so what is the Christianity that was introduced to us? What is so special about Protestant Christianity? What is so special about Catholic Christianity, which Protestant Christianity is an offshoot from? Again, Protestant Christianity did not seek to, it was a type of deconstruction, but it was, again, the type of deconstruction that is a remodeling. Okay, it didn't tear down the entire Catholic tradition. The Protestant Reformation was that. It was a reformation. It was reforming what was already there, which is why Protestants still call a lot of their church fathers, they were Catholics. It's all Catholic ideology, bro. And yes, North Africans, I'm getting off sidetrack. Yes, North Africans in Egypt had a huge influence on Western intellectual foundation of Christianity. So ideas of like the Trinity is a North African invention. Like this is Tertullian and you have the Alexandria Library. Like these were very African ideas. If you're considering North Africa, right? But let's be real. Like North Africa is still not West Africa. The slaves did not come from there. We are descendants of the West, right? Our lineage traced back to the Southern slave. The Southern slave is traced back to the West. And so Africans will let you know. Y'all can sound off in the comments too. I remember when I was first going to Africa, just hold that sentence for a minute. The first time I went to Africa, I was telling everybody I'm going to Africa. Boy, the Africans was like, which part, bro? We not the same. And I knew that, but I didn't know that, right? Like, I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. But like, it's still Africa. Fam, you get to Africa and you're like, oh, yeah, it's there. I was going to South Africa, which is I've yet to go to West Africa. I've been to Kenya. South Africa is not Kenya. Large parts of South Africa is not Zambia. It's not Botswana. It's not other countries that I've been to in Africa. Like Africa is massive. It is massive. And the cultural distinctions are not small. There is a through line. There's a thread. I think there is a thread of black people here and black people in Africa. There is a thread. There's a connecting point. We are of the diaspora of the African slave. However, it's very different. It's very different. And so that still applies 2,000 years ago. Not to mention, the only reason why Christianity was in Egypt to begin with is because, well, the reason why it was a foundation, Egypt was already under imperial rule of Rome at this point. So it's not like, Christianity is just organically spreading across different lands. No, it was spreading across an empire, fam. So anyways, I say that to say, again, people wanted to do the half work, and maybe I'm still guilty of that. I'm trying to deconstruct a lot of that, and not just deconstructing for the sake of deconstructing. I think there's a quote from a Christian that still rings true in my mind, C.S. Lewis. I'm paraphrasing. He says this thing like, you can't go on seeing through everything. To see through everything is the same as seeing nothing. Like, the whole point of a window is to see through it so that I can see what's on the other side. But if I only want to see everything as a window, I want to see a window to see through the window, to see through the window, to see through another window, to see through another window. I just want to see through everything. I want to deconstruct everything. It is the same as to see nothing at all. It's adding. There's no value to what you're saying other than to destroy. Maybe I need to deconstruct this, but I think there's something true to that. It is definitely easier to destroy something than it is to build. This is why hating is so much easier than actually making something. Hating is always easier than creating, because it's always nice to tear down something. It's always fun. That's like a very childlike thing. My son, he just likes to build the blocks, but like to knock the blocks over is so fun. It's like he's really only building up so he can knock it down. It's like, I just love knocking down stuff. And it's like this childish behavior to just want to tear something down. And so it's very easy to tear something down. It's very easy to tear a person down. It takes work. It takes intentionality. It takes patience. It takes humility to construct something, to reconstruct something, to reimagine something, to build something back up. And that's the work that I'm still doing. I'll be doing for the rest of my life. And I hope that work extends beyond myself, but it extends to the idea of building up others, building up the society around me, not just tearing down. But I do think that there has to be some level of like being okay with demolition. And I don't think people are wanting to demolish much of anything because they're afraid that they won't be able to build something back up in its place. But something better can be built in its place. And so you can do that. There is definitely space in my ideology for the homage of my ancestors, of my heritage, of Black Christians who paved the way for me. This whole idea, even again, y'all doing this weird half deconstruction where Christians are like, I'm Christian before I'm Black. Fam, it is only by the blood of your Black Christian ancestors that you have the freedom to even think that kind of thought. To have the privilege to even think that kind of thought. Because 50 years ago, man, you knew I am Black. I am God's child. I'm a Black God's child. I'm God's Black child. Like, that is very clear. And not only is it it's not a like side point or tertiary thing. It's Black Christians that came before you, that paved the way for you to be Christian in this country, understood their relationship to God because of their plight. Because of their rooted understanding in the material world of how they've been treated, man, they were able to understand narratives while the white slave masters were understanding doctrine. I learned this as I was in seminary, man. White people were trashing my Black heritage, and I was going along with it. Like, yeah, man, that Black church stuff, man, we need to learn doctrine. Meanwhile, Black people have always been understanding God not simply through doctrine, because they didn't have time for all that. They weren't allowed into the conservative seminaries that had highfalutin doctrine or whatever. We learned it through story, through narrative, through existential moments of, man, Oh, when I read about a God who came to save the poor and to liberate the enslaved, yes. Now all that high talk about the hypostatic union and all that stuff, like I hear you. And there's this bias to think that somehow the narrative story-driven theology understanding of God is somehow inferior to this Western 1 + 1 = 2 systematic approach to understanding God. Man, Black people in this country have understood God through relationship and story and narrative. It has been very existential, and blood has been shed like their Savior so that you could have the liberty and freedom and privilege and naivety to say some bullshit like, I'm Christian before I'm Black. I'm not making an idol out of my skin. Fam. All I'm saying is be okay with the prospect of letting it all go. Knowing that, being confident that, and I can say this with confidence, even in my agnostic state, that the spirit of the one, the thing, the person that has held you all this time is not going to let you go in the process of you letting go. And I've not lost my mind completely. I have in some ways, and I've returned. And you return to this idea of goodness and purpose and justice, all the things, the themes that carried you through before, they're going to be there. They're going to be there. You can let it all go, fam. Don't make an idol out of the Bible. Don't make an idol out of doctrines, gospels that they told you were supposed to believe, or else out of rules and regulations that they set up so that you could have a direct path to heaven while everything goes to shit here. I have more to say on this, but I just wanted to lay that foundation, because, man, there's a lot of great people, a lot of great thinkers, a lot of great speakers, a lot of great motivators in the Black church that, man, if you would open your eyes, you could be doing some real God work. Some real God work. You gotta let go of that fear of what it'll cost you.